there, book lovers. So glad you're here today to watch our Again and Again author interview with Mariam Shapera, the author of Up, Up You Go, Joe. I hope you enjoy hearing more about this book and hearing about this sweet author and her heart for her kiddos and for children's books. Stay tuned to the end to see who we are talking to next month. Enjoy. There she is. How are you doing, Mariam?
Hi, Valerie. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
I'm glad to hear it. We're doing good here. Oh, I'm so glad to be able to talk with you face to face and talk about your sweet little book today.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here. And this is my first live, so
We'll explore the the ins and outs of this crazy technology together. So, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mariam, and your family?
okay. So my name is Mariam Shapera. I'm 39 years old. I'm married, and I have 3 young children. My oldest is 7, my daughter, and then 2 younger boys, 5 and 3. Basically, I'm originally from the Middle East, and I grew up in England, in Europe, and then been in the United States since 2010, so 12 years. And,
wow.
Yeah.
Kind of a world traveler there. So where in the Middle East are you from?
I'm from Iraq.
Iraq, okay. And you went to medical school in London, didn't you? Or in England?
Yes, in London.
Very neat.
Yes.
I went there once and loved it. And we've tried many times to to have my husband transfer over to England sometimes, but it just never has worked out.
At least for visiting, it's really nice.
Right.
Live there. There's always something to do. It's definitely my favorite, not being biased, my favorite place to visit. I've only been back like once it was a transit. So I'm hoping maybe next year we'll go to visit again, but we'll see. Show the kids and yeah.
Yeah, very exciting. Now, you are a family doctor, but have you released Up Up You Go Joe in 2020 or 21?
It was 2020.
20. So what led you to kind of jump into children's publishing?
Sorry, it's 2021.
21. You're good. I know 2020 is kind of that year that happened that didn't happen. So we're still trying to figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
So what led you to go from medicine to writing children's books?
Okay, so I'm still practicing family medicine. I did my training in Michigan and I still work, but it's part-time. It's a couple of days a week. But during the pandemic, like lots of parents and moms, schools closed and we stayed home. So I took the whole year off. And it's basically homeschooled, right? We homeschooled our kids, especially my oldest daughter at that time. She was supposed to be going to kindergarten. So at that time, it was 2020 when actually the idea came to me to write a children's book. So I always wanted to write children's books, but I was a teenager. And I used to write little things like stories and poems and things like that. And then, you know, you go into high school and then medical school came and there's no time for any of that.
Right.
Studying and then training and then you start working, got married, had kids, and then COVID for lots of people, I feel like was just a time to kind of think about things over again, you know, and be more creative. Your creative side comes out.
Right.
Yeah, that was in 2020. And at that time, in addition to COVID, there was something personal going on in our family too. I was pregnant with baby number 4, and we found out he had trisomy 18. Is a chromosomal abnormality. It's unlike Down syndrome. These babies usually don't survive.
Right.
And then he was stillborn. So that was also something. So while I was pregnant with him around maybe 7 months, that was when I wrote Up You Go Joe. But it's actually inspired by my son, Joseph. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about how he has inspired you to write this.
Yes. So it was in 2020 when I read the story. My son is on the autism spectrum. He's 5 years old, and we always knew, like, probably from 1.5 to 2, he had an affinity towards music. We think he's musically talented. So, and he used to watch my daughter. Like my husband teaches music to my daughter on the piano, and he would watch them and then go after and try to play. You know, so I saw that like he had so much passion. And boys that age of space. So I had an idea come to my mind, combining the two themes. About a boy who lost his music notes and he loves them so much he wants to go and find them, and then I'm using that space theme to try and draw readers in as well, because who doesn't love space, you know? And
right, every kid loves space at some point.
Yeah, it's interesting, it's amazing, there's so much to learn. Anyway, so it was just a way I found also to kind of introduce music to kids, because a lot of kids are not interested in music, but you know, it's kind of like just introducing the music notes and things like that with that book. So yeah.
And I love just how you kind of brought in music theory a little bit there, as well as just that innate curiosity that kids have and the desire to explore and look for things. And that really makes my boys very engaged in your story. So very fun. Yeah. Now, along with music and space, what do you hope to communicate to kids in this book?
So along with music, introducing the idea of music notes, the personality of Joe as well in the story, especially because my son's personality is always changing, and any kid is, right, they ask questions and this and that, or even if they're nonverbal or they use sign language, or anyway, there are things you see in these children which shows that they have that curiosity. So he's very curious but very determined. So he doesn't say, oh, my music notes again. You know, he just wants to go and find his notes. And this is an important life lesson, even for adults. There are so many things we just say, oh, it's too hard, we'll just give up on this for now.
Right.
You just need to keep trying, and then you'll see that stepwise, usually kind of progression. You'll see something, okay, you know, especially with music, actually. Like my husband is now teaching himself violin, which is one of the hardest instruments.
Yeah.
He didn't see much improvement the first couple of years. This is, I think, is like he's gone beyond his third year. And now he's seeing a little bit of progress, and I can hear it's more, you know, but yeah, things like that, music, anything, art, drawing, any skill you pick up, new skills, yeah.
Yeah, that determination is key, the desire to keep trying, even if it's not perfect. One part of the book that I, as a parent, was convicted by was the parents' willingness to let Joe go find his notes. Because there was a part of me like, hold up, this sounds quite right. But it really inspired me to be like, you know, I do need to allow them to step out of their comfort zones and be willing to say yes to my kids to go and explore and to do. And so there's a good lesson for parents in there too.
Parent actually was a review saying, oh, how could you let, you know, the kid like this? But it's a children's book as well, right? Like I said, comfort zone, and it's a kid's book. Like how many kids books? There's so many based on their imagination and pretend. So saying that to the kids, well, you don't have to necessarily go to space, but it's just, you know, and he's not obviously an astronaut suit, you know, like he's not wearing his things to go to space. He's not an astronaut.
Yeah, kids aren't quite they're willing to be outside of the box and to think and to still accept the creative, which is always good. Now, which part of the book was the most fun for you to work on, Mariam?
So it only took me like a few nights actually to write the book. So when the kids were asleep, I just sat down and wrote it, and the editing and like just go over it. But I think it was all fun. But I think the most fun was the ending, because initially I was just going to do like, you know, just something like, oh, he found the notes or he didn't find the notes. So something a bit different, which I don't find much in kids' books. Like just do something, okay, think, you know, okay, like a bit of a twisty ending, you know. So it was just a dream, you know, but no, it wasn't a dream.
Right.
Yeah. So
I know you caught my kids surprised, and they're like, wait a minute, was it a dream? I was like, I don't know. So they enjoyed that fun little element at the end that just made their imagination soar.
Good.
Now, oh, go ahead. How old are my kids? I have a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And we still read a lot of picture books. The benefit or downside to being a children's author is there's lots of picture books around. Well, what do your kids think of your writing?
So it was mostly my daughter that, because she's the older one. When the book was 2021, so it was last year. At that time, she was 6. Yeah, she was like she felt so proud. She was like, "My mom made this book," and she did take it to school, and the teacher read it, and her friends were talking about it. So she was proud. But actually, I've noticed that since the book came out, she's wanted to write books. Like she's also doing little books, pictures, do sentences, and she's reading more. So
very cool.
Yeah. So, but she loves the color. It's not inspired by her, but she still sees like Joseph in that book. The love for music, and I try to make him look like Joseph. So she's like reading it to him, and now Joseph, who's older, he will take it, and he's verbal, but not all his communication is functional. So he very long book for him, and he will like pick random words and he'll read those, and then he'll try to describe the pictures. So he'll read it in like 1 minute, because it's a long book as well. Children's book is quite long, but for him, he's just look at it, and he'll love to look at the different colors. It's quite a sensory book too, because it has the colors. You're thinking about the music notes, stars. So he likes to look at those, the balloons, and those kind of things. So I think he likes it.
If they pick it up more than once, that's usually a good sign that they enjoy it. Very neat. Now, kind of switching a little bit here, what has been the most impactful book in your life?
So the most impactful book, I wish I could read more, but of course we're busy, right? So, but it has to be the Bible.
Yes.
More when I was a teenager, younger, by myself, sometimes as a family, which was nice. But definitely the Bible, yes. I'm trying to pass that on to too now with reading.
Yes. Now, what's your favorite Bible story, Mariam?
I have to say it's the so I like a lot of the Old Testament stories, but there's so many, right?
So many.
The New, I think I would say one of the miracle stories, like the feeding of the 5,000, because every time I read it to my daughter, it's like she's amazed, like it's wow, and then I'm explaining it to her, and then the parables also, when Jesus is explaining the parables, like when he's gives the parable as an example to help us understand, she doesn't still understand it's a parable,
right,
like idea, but she's getting it like slowly, like it's an example. So yeah, that kind of thing. But the miracle stories are my favorite.
Those are always fun to go through, and just to be amazed by who Jesus was. And he was so clear in how he communicated who he was, and only a few got it, and so it's always good to remind ourselves of who he was and who he said he was.
Yes. So. And I have a Bible for my daughter, so that's her reading, like daily reading. We just do that, part of her religion and her reading too. So
yeah,
she just
very fun. We recently tried to institute reading the Bible a little more at night and doing a devotional with each of my kids before bed. And so it's been a good habit to get into, and just build in learning to navigate your Bible. Because I think as a child, I didn't know how to navigate my Bible until I was almost in college. And so just learning where are these books? Where are they in the Bible? And how do I get to Proverbs? How do I find these books? And so it's been a fun experiment in our home.
You're right. Especially in the New Testament, there's references to the Old Testament, so then you want to go back and find,
Yeah, it's all intertwined. Very neat. Well, Mariam, when did you first call yourself a writer?
Oh, that was when I, honestly, if you say like a writer, author, it would be when the book was published. When I first saw it, yes. Honestly, I think you're a writer when you start actually writing, right? For a hobby or for fun, or if you just plan to eventually make something of it or not. Because I think I was a writer in my early teens, and then I stopped, and then and I've just not had much time to write, this year. So just have to kind of incorporate that again. It was usually in the evenings. Some people it's mornings when they have kids, and work. It's mornings, or like when they sleep. So for me, it's a night, because that's when I love my morning sleep. I
enjoy my sleep too, so I hear you. Well, Miriam, if you could spend a day with another popular author, who would you want to spend the day with?
There's a lot, but it would be so this would not be a children's author, children's book author. It would be yeah, it would be Jane Austen. One of the classics.
Yes.
I have to. Yes. Because I read lots of her books when I was younger, as a teenager. You know, her 6 books, including her Aunt's story, which is just amazing. But I would just love to talk to her, you know, like just like an interview like we're doing now, and just what she was feeling, and she's so forward thinking at the time. And
yes, to be a woman in that industry, in that age.
Exactly.
I mean,
yes. Yes.
She and Charlotte Bronte and Emily Bronte, they would all just be interesting characters to just be like, all right, what were you thinking here?
They passed away too, you know, so that was interesting.
Yes, very true. Okay, this is usually one of the harder questions for us book lovers. What is your favorite book? Besides the Bible, what's your favorite book?
So I still have a lot of books to read, and I'm looking forward to reading lots of good books. But I would say I have, can I say 2 favorite books?
I'll allow it.
So one of them is Uniquely Human.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I have not. Tell me about it.
It's basically looking at autism in a positive way.
Okay.
And yes, so it's a book, parents of children with autism, they can really relate to this book. But I think it's a tool for others who are not so familiar with the diagnosis, you know? Like, I'm a family doctor. You'd think maybe I know a little bit about the autism. No, right. I went to England, and it was I graduated like 20 years ago, something like that. Yeah, 22 years ago. Yeah. Anyway, so we had, I remember, one lecture on autism.
Wow.
And it was not anything like I'm seeing in my son. And these are very unique. They're each different in their own, you know, there's a spectrum.
Yes.
But a spectrum that we don't want to say high functioning, low functioning. We want to say more that there are like maybe 100 different symptoms or 100 different presentations. And then this one needs more support here, less support here, maybe a bit more support here. So it's kind of like more of a chart, a longitudinal type thing, charts. So, you know, we were taught autism, they don't talk, they rock back and forth, that kind of thing. They flapping, things like that, and that's it. That's what it is. But anyway, so when I had my son, it just opened my eyes, my ears, you know, and I just started reading about it more. So that's what we have to do, kind of get from the appropriate sources, you know, evidence-based and things like that.
Right.
So that book is amazing. And a lot of us have relatives, nieces, nephews, maybe, that are on the spectrum. It's so popular now. It's a bit more readily diagnosed.
Right.
Even adults now as well, who mask it usually better. But especially more in boys. So that book is such an uplifting book. It's such and the person that wrote it, he's Barry Prezant, he's a speech language pathologist. But he's amazing. Just very, very good book. Yeah.
Very interesting. I have a kiddo that has sensor processing disorder, which usually kids who have autism have sensory processing delays, but not all kids who have sensor processing are autism. And so we've had to like do this whole like yes and no and back and forth with a lot of the schools that we've worked with over the years. So it's something we're always learning more about, you know, both our kids and what's going on in their brains. And it's amazing to have resources like that that can help us see it in a better way.
Yeah, it's an uplifting book, but I think it's true. You know, some parents may say positive and the way it's saying things, but it is like you have to be really positive around your child as well. Yeah. You know, give that positive energy, and they do thrive more. And I've noticed that with my son. If I'm happy around him, makes me, I see that he gets happy, and I'm happy too as a result. And I see him thrive and progress more. Yeah, so that's definitely a book. It's amazing. It's an Audible too, and there's a new edition now that came out this year, which I haven't read that one, but I think it's an extended version of it.
Gotcha. What was the second book?
The second book is, so yeah, Pride and Prejudice. Has to be. I know everyone's watched the movie and watched the series, but the story is just, yeah.
All right, I'm going to diverge for a second. I'm a Pride and Prejudice fan too, but in the movie, which one do you prefer? The 6-hour A&E version done by BBC or the Keira Knightley one?
The BBC.
Okay, we're good.
Yes, I don't know why. I mean, I grew up watching it.
Yep.
It's just, yeah.
It's just so good. I mean, Keira Knightley's amazing, but yeah, Collin Firth and that version, I don't know. There's okay, I'll get off that soapbox.
So it's more detailed too. They took more detail from.
Yes. Hence why it was 6 hours long.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, now that we've diverged enough on favorite books and movies, let's see. You talked a little bit how if your writing journey began and that you kind of been writing here and there and that quarantine kind of brought it out of you. Because the same with my story too. And I found myself in quarantine and what was I doing? I was writing books for my kids because we were all a little bored. And so, so we kind of heard about your journey, but what is your favorite children's book other than your own?
So one that stands out to me, I have lots of books, of course, at home, but one that really stands out to me is The Gruffalo.
Oh, yes.
The Gruffalo. I don't know, it's just, I know there's a Gruffalo there, but it's just amazing the way it's written. Julia Donaldson, and also I like her other books, Room on the Broom.
Yes, Room on the Broom.
Yes. So my son loves that book too, The Gruffalo. My daughter likes the book. So the rhyming, the way the story's told, the humor, the cute mouse, smart though, like he has a plan, And yeah, I love that book. I think that's my favorite. Yes.
I love those books and how they follow normal traditions in storytelling, but then they just kind of twist it just enough to be like, I would have never thought it went that way. And they're just lots of fun and engaging. And again, a lot like your own book, they meet kids in their own mindset rather than an adult, writing a story. It seems like a children's tale. It's just meets them where they're at, which is always the sign of a good story.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are you reading right now?
Right now I'm reading, it's taking a while, but I'm reading Natural Language Acquisition.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It's a nonfiction. I don't read many, I've always grown up reading fiction books, but I guess because being a parent and with autism in the family, it's diverted towards nonfiction books. So my husband likes doing Audible, but he listens to nonfiction like Audible. For me, fiction books, but recently I've been doing a few of those, the nonfiction. But yeah, this year I started it and then I stopped for a bit, and then the summer was difficult. Now I'm going back to it again. So Natural Language Acquisition, I'm about a third of the way through. It's basically it's about how to approach speech therapy for children. Most of the children on the spectrum. Most children on the spectrum do not learn language the way neurotypical kids do, or babies pick up language. Is one of them. So he will pick up phrases typically, or they call them just kind of hard, like a German word, I think originally pronounced. But they pick up phrases, and that's how he communicates, with phrases. And so there has to be the right approach to how to communicate with those kids. Otherwise, if you take a different approach, it will delay their development, their language development. So I'm reading about I can learn to do that with him. And there are speech and language pathologists that are taking some courses to learn about Gestalt language development. It's very interesting.
I would imagine so.
It is. It's very interesting, yes. And I'm trying to do it with my son, and I'm trying to get in touch with another, because for example, at school, he's in a special ed class and he has a speech therapist, but I'm not sure if she's using that method. I doubt it.
Right.
You don't want to be enforcing phrases on them. Like, it has to be natural. It comes out there. And like teaching a grammar too early, that's not good. You have to wait things like that. So I'm trying to get in touch with a private speech therapist now. Hopefully she can help me a little bit as well here and there, and I'll work with him. But that's what I'm reading. It's very interesting.
So do you tend to lean more towards nonfiction books than fiction because of just this constant need for both your medical practice as well as learning more about how your son operates?
Yes. So for the medical practice, mostly it's medical journals, that, like family physician, things like that, family physician journals. But for my son, for example, potty training, I read a few potty training books to help with him with that. Now it's about more the speech, things like that. And then before all this, also we were learning about parenting and, those kind of books. Whatever my husband reads, he recommends something. Okay, I'll prefer to read. He's more of a listener. I'm like, books.
That's how me and my husband are too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So yes, but I do love fiction books too. So I try to get into those. And now my daughter's reading chapter books. And I think when she's a bit older, she will probably start to read some books that I don't know, like I haven't heard of, or, so maybe I'll read them quickly before she does so I can see what they're about as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have a vivacious reader. My 10-year-old, I think he read a series of 9 books like in 2 months. And so I was like, hey, buddy, let's read this together because I want to know what you're reading because you're devouring this. So it's been fun to build that relationship with him and to explore new books that I normally wouldn't pick up. But it's been a good relationship building element.
About ideas. She's always asking, what does this mean? Certain like phrases that you take literally, things like that, so I have to explain, or I don't know and I have to look it up, and I'm learning too. So.
Yeah. I think it's fun when we as parents can come alongside our kids and be a part of their learning journey and their love of reading, and we learn as much along the way.
Of course, yeah.
Well, Mariam, what can we expect next from you? I've heard some rumors that you got something brewing.
Yes, so I have my second book coming. I actually wrote this one shortly after the first one. Kind of was different pieces and I put it together. So it's going to be a rhyming story. Also inspired by my son. Of course, he's my muse. So a story about a boy like Joe, but it's I'm gonna be focusing about his autism diagnosis, but it's more actually on his gifts. And so is to try and identify what these kids are really good at, what they're talented in, what their gifts are, and then just focus on those as well. We tend to their deficiencies, their delays, and do therapy on that, but also we need to look at their gifts. Like, for example, he's musical, for example, Other kids, some of these kids are very artistic. Some of them are great at math. Some of them are great at like making films, things like that. So kind of early readers or something like that. So have to find that. So it's just a fun, it's shorter than Up You Go, Joe. So it's a rhyming story, yes. And hopefully it's now about to start illustrations phase. So yeah.
Very fun. Sounds like a great book. I know for, my kiddo, finding books about sensor processing disorder to help explain it to him was key in allowing him to accept it not as a problem, but as a gift God has given him. And even those children's books helped me and my husband to be like, okay, this is not a mistake. This is not, wrong. It's just going to be a different way of looking at the world, and it's going to be more engaging because of it. So I'm excited for what you got coming. Do we have a potential publishing date?
I'm hoping, like my target is like spring next year. I'm hoping for Autism Awareness Day, which is in April.
Ah, yes.
That's
good thinking.
My time this time. I'm learning more about the process. Because like with the first, like you just want to get it there, just get it out there. With the second book, it's like, okay, just take your time a bit more, and yeah.
Yes, enjoy the process. Very cool. Well, Mariam, where can people find out more about you?
I'm here on Instagram and also on Facebook, Mariam Shapera Tales, and also I have a website which is the same thing, mariamshaperatales.com. It's currently going under some like updates right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you can find me, and then my book is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble online, and all those places. Yeah.
Very exciting. Well, I'm so glad you joined us here today and just to tell us about your fun book and what's coming next. It's been great to get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you, Valerie, so much. This is my first live. I'm honored to have an interview with you for my first live. So
Glad to have you. You did great. So we'll look forward to seeing more about what's coming here in the next few months.
okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Hi there, book lovers. Thank you so much for joining us today in this Again and Again author interview. I'm so excited about what Mariam has coming up, hopefully next April, in her new book. And hopefully you can subscribe to here and follow me on social media, and you can hear more about her books as well as my own. You can find out my full review on my blog. The links are in the description. And then next month, we'll be talking with Ruth Malley in her books, The Power of Gratitude and the Power of Kindness. I'm looking forward to talking with her next month. Hope to see you there. Happy reading.